The Stone family is at the airport in Jamaica, ready to return home to New York. Suddenly, the airline announces that the flight is overbooked and a few passengers need to switch to a later one. Michaela, a police detective, her brother Ben, and Ben's son Cal, who is battling leukemia, volunteer to take the later flight. The rest of the family boards the original flight. In the next scene, the three are already airborne on the alternate flight and awaiting landing. Out of nowhere, a violent storm appears, causing intense turbulence. The plane shakes aggressively as the cabin lights go out and emergency lights switch on, plunging the passengers into fear. Within a minute, things settle, the storm clears, and the flight continues toward JFK. However, the pilot receives new instructions. He must land at a different airport. The air traffic controller sounds alarmed when hearing the flight number. They are told that emergency crews, both military and medical, will be waiting when they land. Still confused and alarmed, the passengers disembark after landing. NSA Director Vance arrives to oversee the situation and speaks to the bewildered group. He informs them of an unbelievable fact. Though they took off from Jamaica on April 7, 2013, the current date is November 4, 2018. They've been officially missing for over 5 years and were presumed dead. The scene shifts back to that day at the Jamaican airport. Michaela, a detective in NYPD, watches her loved ones and notices the silent burdens they carry despite their smiles. Her brother Ben and his wife Grace have been married for 15 years and are still deeply in love. Their twins, Olive and Cal, are close, but Cal's leukemia has cast a shadow on their lives. The couple constantly lives in fear, desperately seeking a cure. Meanwhile, Michaela's mother urges her to settle down and get married. Michaela has been hesitant since her longtime boyfriend Jared recently proposed. She hasn't given him an answer, still grappling with a recent traumatic experience. Back in the present, the passengers struggle to believe what they're being told. At first, it sounds like a twisted prank, but it becomes clear that Vance is not joking. As investigations continue, officials discover that none of the passengers have aged since the flight. The NSA pushes for answers, but the passengers are as clueless as anyone. That night, they are held in a facility and questioned one by one. All the passengers give the same answer during questioning. They have no idea what happened to them. 36 hours later, the news becomes public and spreads like wildfire across the world. Families that had long given up hope rush to the airport, overwhelmed by the miraculous return of their loved one. It's a surreal, emotional experience for everyone involved. Ben reunites with his daughter, who is now a teenager. Cal is stunned to see his twin sister Olive has aged while he hasn't. She's now nearly twice his size. Grace is overjoyed to see Ben and Cal alive again. However, the reunion is bittersweet as Ben and Michaela learn their mother died 2 years ago. They struggle to process the loss and head home to rest and adjust to their drastically changed lives. As the world tries to make sense of the situation, scientists examine the aircraft thoroughly but find no anomalies. Michaela is particularly troubled by the absence of Jared, her fiancé, at the airport. When she goes to the NYPD to see him, a senior detective welcomes her back despite her 5-year absence. Alongside the media frenzy about Flight 828, there's also major news about 2 girls who've been abducted. Jared, now leading that case, finally meets Michaela and delivers a shocking revelation. He married her best friend Lourdes a year ago. For Michaela, who feels like she was only gone for 2 days, this is a devastating blow. Meanwhile, Ben takes Cal to the doctor immediately. Fortunately, medical advancements over the past 5 years have made it possible to treat Cal's leukemia. The parents are overwhelmed with relief. Later, Michaela is on a bus when she suddenly hears a voice in her head urging the driver to slow down. She yells just in time to prevent an accident and save a boy's life. The voice felt real and strangely compelling. We're then introduced to Sanvi, a medical researcher and fellow passenger. She returns to her workplace to find out her pre-disappearance cancer research has been a breakthrough in the medical world. Her co-workers throw her a surprise welcome party, celebrating both her return and her impact. The next morning, Michaela hears another voice while jogging near a fenced yard. 2 barking dogs trigger a new calling. Set them free. Though she initially ignores it, the voice persists. At midnight, she returns, and so does Ben, who heard the same thing. They free the dogs but decide to stay quiet. The world is watching, and saying the wrong thing could get them locked up or worse. The next day, police retrieve CCTV footage of the dog incident. Jared quietly handles it to keep Michaela out of trouble. When he confronts her about why she let the dogs out, she has no explanation. She simply followed an impulse she didn't understand. They track down the dogs and head to the owner's place to apologize. Meanwhile, Ben attempts to reconnect with Olive. He attends her football matches and tries to get involved in her life again. But the emotional gap is still there. Olive had years of therapy to cope with the trauma of losing her dad and twin. They both agree to take things slow. As Michaela approaches the dogs again, she hears the same mysterious voice urging her to set them free. While Jared is speaking to the owner and trying to explain the situation, Michaela is overwhelmed by the calling and suddenly bursts into a locked room. To everyone's shock, the two missing girls from the recent abduction case are found inside. Michaela realizes the voice wasn't referring to the dogs. It was guiding her to the kidnapped girls. Jared is stunned, but quickly arrests the criminal. Given her immediate success in solving the case, the department deems Michaela fit to return to work, though they start her off with desk duty. Elsewhere, Ben and his family are enjoying a quiet night playing board games. Grace receives a message from her boyfriend, the one she dated during Ben's mysterious absence. He tells her he misses her, but she isn't ready to come clean to Ben just yet. Meanwhile, several passengers from Flight 828 suddenly experience a strange headache and an overwhelming urge to head to the airport. Once there, they are surprised to see each other, all drawn by the same unexplained feeling. Without warning, the plane they arrived on explodes. The NSA discovers that 20 of the returned passengers were at the scene and brings them in for questioning. They all give the same answer: they just felt like coming. After a long 10-hour interrogation, they're released, but federal agents continue to monitor them. The following morning, Jared hears a strange melody in his mind, one no one else can hear. He and Grace later accompany Cal for his chemo session, where they meet Sanvi and learn Cal is being treated using the breakthrough research she contributed. Meanwhile, Michaela avoids speaking to Lourdes at work, too emotionally tangled to deal with their history. She's informed she'll need a psych evaluation before returning to full duty. That same day, Ben hears the strange melody too. Following it, he meets Rad, a street musician and fellow passenger, who reveals he left his teenage son with a neighbor before boarding Flight 828. Rad has just discovered that his son Audio is behind bars, but every attempt to see him is blocked. Fortunately, Jared is assigned the case and decides to help. Using his NYPD connections, he arranges a meeting between Rad and Audio. The young man has been accused of stealing from the jewelry store where he works, but he insists he's innocent. While it's possible he's lying, Ben has a gut feeling he's telling the truth. Back at home, Ben asks Michaela not to mention the callings to Grace. He wants to avoid worrying her or making her feel like he's changed. Grace has already been acting distant, and he doesn't want to widen the gap. The next morning, Grace receives a call from Danny, her boyfriend from during Ben's disappearance. He urges her to tell Ben the truth. As Grace speaks quietly on the phone, Michaela overhears the conversation. She promises not to say anything to Ben, but advises Grace to make a decision soon. Michaela then looks deeper into Audio's case and discovers all signs point to him. No forced entry and a fake ID used to land the job. Rad meets with Audio again, but his son insists he would never steal from a place he worked so hard to get into. He only used the fake identity to find better opportunities. Later that night, Grace brings new toys for Cal to replace the ones she gave away. Unaware he misses his old stuff, like his rock collection and limited edition Legos. Olive reveals she secretly stored them in a storage unit. When she and Ben go to retrieve them, he realizes the unit belongs to Danny. Olive hugs him and apologizes for keeping it secret. As Ben lifts the boxes, he hears a tune again, but this time, it's real. He follows it and traces it to the ringtone of the jewelry store owner's son. Realizing the boy framed Audio, Ben alerts the authorities. Audio is cleared and released, leaving Rad relieved and grateful. While scrolling through her old Facebook messages, Michaela finds heartfelt texts from Lourdes over the years. Feeling nostalgic, she decides to visit and reconcile. The two share a moment and make peace. Meanwhile, Ben finally confronts Grace about her relationship with Danny. He doesn't lash out, instead expressing empathy for her loneliness and grief. Grace feels lucky to have someone so understanding. Elsewhere, Kelly, one of the more outspoken flight passengers, starts accusing the government in interviews. That night, while watching the news, she's shot dead. Police swarm her home, and when Ben hears of it, he warns his family to stay alert, convinced the attack is connected to the flight. Sanvi calls Ben with a major discovery. She's found a previously unknown protein in Cal's blood that wasn't present before the flight's return. They agree to keep it confidential until Sanvi can investigate further. After the call, Ben and Michaela head to Kelly's house to look into her murder, but Vance shows up and throws them out, claiming it's a national security issue. Outside, they run into Kelly's husband, Taylor, who reveals that Kelly had experienced a calling the day before her death. Before they can ask more, he abruptly walks away. Meanwhile, Michaela has been hearing the phrase "own your truth" repeatedly in her mind. When she hears Kelly say the same words in an interview, Michaela feels compelled to find her killer. Later, she and Ben visit Taylor again, who's busy preparing for the funeral. He and the maid both believe Kelly was killed because of her public statements. As guests arrive, Ben and Michaela quietly leave. The visit stirs up painful memories for Michaela about her late friend Evie. Months before the flight vanished, Michaela had crashed a car with Evie inside. Evie didn't survive, and Michaela never forgave herself. Motivated to face her past, she visits Evie's parents, while her last visit ended with them shutting her out. This time Beverly, Evie's mother, welcomes her in. Michaela soon learns Beverly suffers from dementia and still believes Evie is alive. Her husband, however, remains bitter and blames Michaela. Later, Michaela meets Jared at work. He's uncovered that Kelly and her husband owned a mall downtown. Michaela remembers the maid previously mentioned something about a mall. It might be the clue they've been looking for.